Is ground zero for the investigation and the impact of climate change. Miami, your city, also happens to be one of the strongest cultural centers in this hemisphere, and a place where the creative industries and creatives come together to reflect upon the issue of our time.
Beaches, nightclubs, cuisine, art. Miami. When I think of Miami, I don't only think of Miami Beach. I think of Little Haiti, Wynwood, each area with specific characteristics that make it unique. Cuban flags in Little Havana, Haitian flags in Little Haiti. Miami is special because everyone has their own unique personality shaped by the culture of the area they grew up in. Science Stories is a program that handpicks students to get together on Saturdays and produce films like the one you're watching. We've been recognized with awards in the past, and that, paired with our interest for climate change and our love for Miami, makes us the right people to create awareness through filmmaking. This is my best friend, Jovelyn, more like family to me. We've been friends for 10 years now, and she's currently a senior in high school. She loves Justin Bieber. Remember when he got arrested for drag racing? She cried, bro.
I would say the center of Miami, basically. So, and Little Haiti.
Okay. What do you know about sea level rise?
And what I know about sea level rise is that it's bad for, it's getting worse, basically, because of global warming. Sea level rise will impact Florida by other places where near the water will be washed out, and more houses and more people will be living closer to the land and higher land, basically, where higher houses are.
Are you doing anything to get the word out?
Yes, actually, working with Science Stories and making videos to inform the audiences about sea level rise, basically.
Do you hear in school anything about like climate change or your peers like getting evicted?
No, because not a lot of people in my school are interested about that or don't really know about climate change or sea level rise at all.
How about any family members?
Besides my mom, my sister, I don't think so.
Yes, we're concerned with climate change and sea level rise, but like everyone else, we have our personal lives. Senior activities, college applications, prom invitations.
I don't even know if I'm gonna have a date or not. I'm probably gonna go single Pringle.
Wait, you're going to prom this year?
Yeah, I
thought you weren't.
I wasn't, and then I was like, you know what?
Wait, you're really going this year?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna go at all, cause I was like, what's the purpose of it? Like,
You didn't tell me you changed your mind.
oh, I just told you that.
No, too late.
I wanted to be like a certain way because I saw this dress and like the back, it was like off the shoulder and it was red. It was like how I wanted it, but like the back was so ugly, so I was just like, I don't know if I could find a dress like this but not with the back.
Alright. Whichever you like is good. You could always look at thrift shops. They always have, like next year, they always have like prom dresses up.
Susan Jacobson from Florida International University came to show us an app she helped develop to calculate how sea level rise will affect your home.
I worked with the people at FIU's GIS Center to create the Sea Level Rise Toolbox, which is the Sea Level Rise app. Do you guys know what GIS stands for? It stands for Geographic Information Services. So it's the people who make maps. One of the big variables here we're using basically elevation and topography. Topography, there's something called LIDAR, which is a topographical map. It lights so all the lumps in the geography. We marry that together with some waterway information. That's the algorithm that produces this. Yeah, so you can see we're kind of in the middle, Center for Social Change. We're in the middle of a higher area of elevation that is less vulnerable to the impact of rising seas. But even here, we're going to be a little bit cut off from other parts of Miami. You know, if we wanted to go up north, for example, that would be harder to do. So if you look, though, there are a couple other places that are pretty drier. Little Havana is one of them. The area of Little Haiti is one of them.
Jocelyn, do you want to give her your address to see?
This one? Oh, look, 9.85 feet. That's actually pretty good.
At 9.85 feet above sea level, Jovelyn's house is safe from flooding. However, being in Little Haiti, it's very vulnerable to heat waves. Jovelyn's house is also vulnerable to climate gentrification.
Yes, you're definitely.
You're safe, Jocelyn.
You're pretty safe, yes. Of course, again, getting there from, say, someplace north of where you live might be a challenge. And there's something going on in Little Haiti right now called climate gentrification. Have you heard this phrase?
Yes.
Okay.
We took a summer course with Catalyst Miami. It was a lot for us to take a course when our friends were out there having fun, but we got the information we needed.
A few of us took a class in Miami-Dade about sea level rise, climate gentrification, so it really opened our eyes and see it's happening and more of what it is that is happening. That was my first time hearing about it. At first I thought it was a pretty word. Maybe it means like something really good and happy, but it was a total opposite.
Our community, Liberty City, is more sought after now because of the sea level rising, and people are looking for higher ground. And so our community is what we call the top of the list. It's sought after. The other day I went with my friend to go and pick up a wedding dress. I was playing with my great-granddaughter in the vehicle and had my head down, and when I held my head up, I had no idea where I was. I could not tell where I was, and like I said, I've been in this community. I had to look at the number, the street number, to know where I was, because the whole area is totally changed. Totally changed. On our side, we don't talk about the sea level rising per se. We more look at what's happening in the community because of it, right? We're being flooded, like everyone is seeking our neighborhood, right? Like I said, because it's 13 feet above sea level. And when that water come in, just like everybody gonna want to get to the highest point.
So what exactly is climate gentrification?
Regular gentrification would be like you're being pushed out of your neighborhood because someone's moving in and they're raising prices, building developments. Climate gentrification specifically is when you add the layer of, in our case, elevation. So yeah, it's normal gentrification, but on top of that, factoring in elevation and people being pushed out due to their land being more valuable because of climate change and pending impacts.
Yeah, we have offers all the time. Wanted to buy the house. They want to buy this house, but I don't really want to sell. I don't like it because I did not put my house in the market, and they keep sending me letters like that, so I don't really like it. Everything is changing because I don't think Little Haiti is Little Haiti.
What happened to Little Haiti?
It depends on where you live. This neighborhood from the northeast part, most it was in Little Haiti. When you pass by, you don't even see most Haitian anymore. The first time I went downtown, it was all high-rise. That was shocking. High-rise everywhere. High-rise.
People who want to be in these neighborhoods have to own the property, and they have to own it now because it's going to be too expensive 5 years from now. You find that all over the country. It's happening, and it's happened in Harlem and continues to happen in Harlem, and it will happen in Miami because we live in a free enterprise capitalist economy, and the dollars will demand that certain things happen. So if the people in this neighborhood or the people who used to live here want it to continue to be like it was, they're going to have to buy the property, and they need to start buying it as soon as possible. I grew up here. And so I came back and invested in the neighborhoods that I know. I know the people here. I have relatives who live here. I have friends who live here, and we hate to lose it and be pushed out into the suburbs because the action's going to be in town. And since we're here and we know the history of it and we grew up here, we need to own it.
How are you going to encourage that, though?
With documentaries like the one you're doing. There are people who have grown up here who have become people of means, and instead of buying overpriced houses in the latest upper middle class neighborhood, they need to turn around and invest in their own neighborhood, because that is going to be the place to be in the future.
I miss Ian. I do. I was really hoping for him to show up today. The second Saturday of every month, you get taken to this place at 5 in the morning, and they make you do a bunch of physical tests to see if you're like physically able to join the Marines. And it's every month. So today is the Saturday that he had to do that. We talked about it. He told me he had to do that today, but he told me he was most likely going to show up after, but he didn't. Don't worry, I'll be here next Saturday.
Cut it there, placed it right before this shot where he's walking in the hallway. What do you think that would look like?
Fernando Bretos is Director of Marine Conservation at Philip and Patricia Frost Museum of Science. He leads volunteers to help restore the coastline with native plants.
I'm Director of Marine Conservation at Frost Science. It's really a dream job. I oversee our work fortifying our coastline. So what you see behind me is a dune. Another example would be a restored mangrove. We're able to do coastal resilience, so fortify our coastline using natural remedies. All you have to do is compare it to Fisher Island, for example, where you see what we call gray infrastructure. This is a seawall. A seawall can only do so much, right? Once that water surpasses that sea level, or that seawall, it is no longer effective. It is no longer performing a function. So what Frost Science is doing with other partners is creating natural solutions. So why does this matter to Little Haiti? Why does this matter to downtown Miami? Well, we're creating those examples that can be replicated in other parts of the city. There are a lot of parts of Miami that they're urbanized, that are in downtown, that could use this kind of approach. So what happens in areas full of concrete that don't have the power of trees to release heat, absorb heat? They get hotter. And remember, when you have green spaces, you're not only creating shade, we're also placing areas that can withstand flooding, that can take that water and put it down instead of laterally in the cities that creates flooding.
So what exactly is climate change? We asked the experts to find out.
Well, first of all, climate is a long-term average of weather, okay, usually over 30 years or more, okay? So an average of daily highs, daily lows, any other variable of interest, precipitation, for example. And then a change is some discernible shift from that.
You know, over the years, there's been this silly debate about whether climate change is real or not. The people locally, they're seeing it happen in front of them. They know they have to respond to that. So we want to make sure we don't put in we remove all the barriers so that local municipalities, local governments, local communities can capture resources and figure out how to respond. And so I think young people need to make sure they're representatives of both the local, state, and federal level know that this is an issue of major importance to your generation, and you're going to be voting, and that you demand that they start developing policy prescriptions so that you have a future here. So I think we have to lead our politicians to the right place in terms of policy prescriptions. We have to demand action from them.
Anna Zagronis from Florida Sea Grant came to talk to us about climate change and what we can do about it.
What causes sea level rise? There are two factors that play into it, and not just say global warming. What about heat? Thermal expansion. What does that mean, Chris? Yes. If you have the pot of water really, really full, what happens? It overflows because those molecules are expanding. And just like if you guys fill an ice cube tray, what happens to the ice cubes? They shrink down because cold things contract. So that's one way, that's part of the reason for sea level rise. What's the other? What's happening in the poles where these huge, we have land-based ice and sea-based ice. We're losing the land-based ice. And so that is physically adding water and making the sea levels rise. Good.
For the 2018 midterm elections, we headed to the polls. We wanted to know if climate change and sea level rise influence people's decisions and who and what to vote for.
The answer is yes. Obviously, sea level rise is a legitimate concern. As a commissioner, we spent hundreds of millions of dollars bonded out in order to raise our roads, redevelop our stormwater system from a gravity system to one that includes pumps that actually filter out the water to make sure that the water going out not only is cleaner, but it's keeping our streets dry and making sure that the insurance companies recognize that we're trying to protect our city. I bought my home 2 years ago, planning on raising my family here. I have a 9-year-old now, and I hope to be able to give my home to him one day. We're doing everything we can to protect ourselves, whether it be adjusting our code, whether it be shoring up our seawalls, shoring up our dunes, raising our roads, doing everything we have to do to make sure that we're still insurable, mortgageable. The moment that an insurance company says that we're no longer insurable, or an underwriter says that we're no longer insurable for flooding, that's when we have a problem.
Did Michael agree with me? Yes, he did. Good. Hopefully he didn't just talk nonsense. How was your experience, Chris?
Oh, we got nothing. How do you send someone out into a field and they come back with nothing? You didn't get not one interview?
They look like, some of them look like they were like in a rush to go somewhere, even though they probably had nowhere to go.
We interviewed several people, about 9 in total, and easily more than half of them agreed that the environment was an important issue for them when deciding who to vote for. Michael Grieco, he said that even if he was elected, the loss of Andrew Gillum would have put a significant burden. And with the governor being on the other side, it's like you're going to have immense gridlock.
We have a governor in Tallahassee who has been saying for coming up on 8 years now that the word climate change wasn't allowed to be used in any kind of statewide notifications or bulletins or anything. So I think that pretty much sums it up. We need new blood that acknowledges and is going to put climate change and rising seas on the top of the agenda instead of ignoring it.
Jonathan, you're a South Floridian native?
Yes.
And how long have you
I was born and raised here.
Do you believe sea level rise is a legitimate concern for people down here at the beach?
Absolutely, I do think so. I've seen it, a lot of the flooding. I live on the little island, and I've seen the flooding actually happen firsthand in hurricanes and also in storms and tropical storms that I've actually had 2-3 feet of water in front of my house. I actually had to elevate my house about 4 feet. So that was a very large investment.
The towers are having to cough up a lot of money in special assessments to be able to afford some, reinforcements to keep the water out. I did water restoration before this, and I remember that there was a flash flood in Brickell, and that was pretty significant. And that had nothing to do with any hurricanes. It was just like a tropical storm, and the surge came in. So that was pretty scary. And then just regular flooding over down in South Beach that happens often enough. I think right now property prices are just through the roof, and I don't think that people are seeing climate change as a real threat. So like you said, maybe some property value might be depreciating, but I don't really see it depreciating much.
If you notice, like when we have high tides, you'll see like it flooding the streets just on a regular day. So imagine during hurricanes and stuff. And our city isn't really that good at draining the water, so it stays there for like a couple of days. And you can very much see the impact on just like little rain days. If we have our candidates that like acknowledge it and they want to work to it, that's definitely a start than just having people that deny it and don't want to do anything about it. So that's definitely, even with our president and everything, like I think having the right candidates is definitely in the right direction, the right push. I wouldn't say that like I do like a lot, but like just the little things like not littering and just recycling and trying to use less plastic. I feel like those things make a difference, especially if like everyone tries to do those little things. Like it definitely makes like a drastic difference.
What do you think are some ways we can ensure that the public from now on and the youth from now on is more invested in climate change?
Well, I think what you're doing, for example, you get the word out there, you talk to people. So I think just talking to people and putting it in their faces, getting them involved in the conversation.
Ian is a senior in high school. He's a goofball, but you can count on him to get the job done. Recently, he's been trying to take some serious steps in his life to join the Marines.
I've been part of Science Stories for 3 years now. I began my sophomore year in high school, and now this is my third year. I spent every summer during my high school years at the University of Miami working in climate labs, doing experiments relating to pH levels in the water, temperature oscillations in the Atlantic, and how they're being exacerbated by climate change. So I definitely believe that climate change is a threat, and that it's a threat for us here in South Florida, and that it is being caused by human pollution of the atmosphere. It's going to take intense community activism and political legislation to get to the bottom of mitigating our destruction of the climate. These are my hurricane shutters. I don't have the necessary tools to put them on the windows, so I make makeshift tools, and surprisingly they held up during Irma. I'll put them at the base and at the top of the window, and I'll slide the shutters in within that frame, and it holds. I slid it in right there, see? Those are the metal coils. And I would have 2 nails right there. I decided to go into the Marine Corps not only to finance my education, but to make sure I was the kind of person who could succeed when pursuing my education. My mom was super frightened. She thought I was gonna get immediately deployed to a combat zone. My grandmother, she was very supportive of it. My father, he was supportive of it. He just really wanted to make sure that I knew what I was getting myself into. But like overall now, I don't regret my decision. I definitely feel a lot more confident. I'm definitely in the best like physical shape of my life. And I feel a lot more ready to head off for boot camp. If climate change means dealing with more Category 4 and Category 5 hurricanes every year, would you personally stay in the South Floridian community?
Well, I would, because I have made changes to my residence that make it resist those level of hurricanes. So for example, I retrofitted my roof to have hurricane straps to make sure that roof is going to stay on there. I have cement tiles on the roof, which I believe are going to be quite sturdy. I have impact windows. I live 15 feet above sea level. I mean, there's many reasons why I personally could stay. You know, there are challenges here in South Florida because a lot of our power grid is above ground. Whether they put cement posts or leave the wood posts, as long as it's above ground, we're going to have problems in terms of power interruption. So I don't think the system is resilient enough as it stands to be able to prevent another long-term power outage during the next storm. It's not a matter of running away right now, okay, but it's a matter of planning. We need to know what's coming, and we need to plan for that. So, as an example, you know, I have children and I have grandchildren. I would probably not be planning on having them inherit anything that's worth anything in some of the coastal locations in South Florida, like Miami Beach or maybe up in Fort Lauderdale. where we know the sea level rise is going to make many of those properties plummet in value as we go towards the middle and latter portion of this century. For many reasons, there's going to be a domino effect. Uninsurable properties. There's no insurance company that's going to provide insurance for these locations. That will lead to values plummeting. So, it's a matter of planning. It's a matter of waking up and realizing that we need to plan long term as to where we're going to live in this state. But there are parts of Florida that definitely are not going to be around.
Donald Montero is dedicated to his hobbies, especially dancing. You can catch him cracking up with Ian. When they're together, there's no stopping that. You're gonna laugh.
My name is Donald Montero. I'm a senior at Miami Beach Senior High. There are hurricanes, the beach gets it the worst because there's more water around us, so it's easier to flood. Because if it keeps raining, I live right next to a bay. Everything behind us right now, like further down, it's a bay. So if there's a lot of rain, the bay, it comes up and then it floods the street. During Hurricane Irma, I went to Ian's house and I stayed there for 2 days. It was 3 days.
At the time we were really tripped out because Hurricane Irma ended up being the longest Category 5 ever sustained in the Atlantic with like 200-mile-per-hour winds, and it was decimating all those islands in the Caribbean. So Donald thought his house was going to get blown down and he was going to get washed away. So he decided to seek refuge here at my house.
I was scared in the night though because like I don't know. You know when you like sleep over other people's house and it's like nighttime, you feel like kind of like uncomfortable because it's not your house. So Ian, my friend, he keeps a wooden stick next to his bed at all times, in which he calls the demon spear.
My house is like so prone to like paranormal activity, it's like not even funny. Donald, he was scared because he knew that my house was like haunted, and he was hearing noises. He was sleeping on this small bed that we had laid out for him in the living room.
This demon spear he uses to launch at the demons he encounters. And then the one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I wanted to go to sleep in his bed because where I was sleeping was kind of uncomfortable.
And Hurricane Irma was already raging outside, and you were hearing the blow of the wind, the whistling. So it was just like completely ominous and eerie. So I understand why he didn't want to be out there. And I start waking up because I hear creaking on my wooden floor, and then my door opens up.
Instead of just going to the bed, I'm like, yo. The first thing he wakes up and he starts screaming and grabs the wooden stick.
and I'm ready to like impale whatever it was, and Donald goes, no, chill, don't do it.
Calm down. It was a very out of the ordinary experience.
As we were finishing up the film, Ian has some great news for us.
Alright, so I was 1 month away from leaving for boot camp. I graduate June 5th, and I was supposed to leave for boot camp June 24th. And last minute, I found out at my recruiting office that the job I was promised got switched on me, and I was most likely going to be attached to an infantry company as a radio operator. And this was at the same time that currently things are escalating overseas in Venezuela and in Iran. And this coincided with a new opportunity opening up for me at the University of Miami, developing algorithms that can detect cancerous moles. And so, stuck between those two choices, being a radio operator during a time of conflict, or programming models that could assist cancer patients at UM, I knew which one was the right decision for me, so I called my recruiters and I got discharged. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all happy.
We got featured at the Green Shorts Film Festival at the University of Miami. We get cringy when we see our faces blown up on screen, but it's pretty cool.
I know that there are 6 students from our Upward Bound program who've created math and science films, high school students, who are perfecting their craft and will be showing that craft, sharing that craft with you later today. Please know and understand that you are creating this in a community that is eager to receive it and also to support you. As an art form, it is where I think our society is headed in communicating complex ideas. And what I best love about the form is that it is an exceedingly democratic and accessible form. You can do this without incredible amounts of resources. So those of you who are filmmakers, who are exploring the issues of our time, I celebrate you here today, and please use this, your first screening, as a platform for continued success.
Where?
Oh yeah, Steve. I'm about to say Steve Carell. No, Steve something. That's.
Please, we have cameras on here. Please don't go over. Please don't even touch my boat. Go away. Go away. Be good boys. Ian, please do not.
To many, Miami is just a vacation spot. But to us, Miami is our home. It's where we wake up every morning. Miami is special because everyone has their own unique personality shaped by the culture of the area they grew up in. These cultures make up the Miami we are fighting to protect. Many people may not know this, but climate change not only affects our shorelines, climate change is also a threat to the cultural diversity of our city.